Good evening. Good evening, kings and queens of the land. Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, the royals. Good evening to the liberated zones of Africa. Good evening to Mali, led by President Assimi Goita. Good evening to Niger, led by President Abdurrahman Tian. Good evening to Burkina Faso, led by President Ibrahim Traore. Good evening to His Excellency, the Commander General of the MK Party, President Jacob Kelehleke Sazoma. Good evening to the liberated zone in KZN. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mngoni Mkhonto. This is the Royal Opinion. Today, we are talking about the impact of the tariffs that Trump has applied on South Africa and China. We want to talk about what will be the impact of those tariffs, the tariff war, which is happening between China and South Africa. Thank you very much for joining. King Victor Shongwe, please click the like button and subscribe if you are coming here for the first time. Just click the like button. King Victor Shongwe saying, Present Teacher King. Thank you very much. Today we're going to go in depth and we're going to talk about the reason why we're going to talk about the reason why China will collapse, the reason why America is going to collapse, and the reason why Russia is also going to collapse. We're going to talk about these reasons, and we're going to talk also about the reason why. We will find out the reason why South Africa will not collapse, and why India as well is not going to collapse. There's similarities between the two countries, India and South Africa. We've got similarities between the two countries. So let me first explain what are tariffs. Thank you very much for joining. Let me first explain what are tariffs. Tariffs is money that is required from somebody who is buying goods from outside the country where they are staying. If I'm a South African citizen, for instance, giving an example, and I want to buy an Apple computer from China, maybe because the computers, when you buy them from China, the Apple computers, when you buy them from China, are cheaper than when you buy them from South Africa. Then South Africa is going to charge me, the buyer, some money, a certain percentage of what I was buying, depending on the agreement with that particular country. What is the reason for tariffs? The reason for tariffs is to protect local companies or to protect local industry. How does tariffs protect local industry? Let's say I buy a computer from China and the computer is half of the prices I get it in South Africa. So when they want to protect the South African people who are selling the same computer, they are going to put a certain percentage which will actually make it almost the same as when I buy in South Africa, when you buy outside. So when you buy, they are going to charge you some money, which will make it just to neutralize, to make sure that you spend your money in your local economy. The tariffs are meant for that, to make sure that the people who are in the country, they spend the money on their local economy. When they buy things from outside, then they are charged some money. So when Donald Trump put tariffs on imports from China, it means there are companies or there are people who are buying things from China, from America. America has been built to be one of the most consuming market in the world. White people have successfully made Europe and America to be a totally consuming people. So, because everything they use, they buy, they cannot create anything or plant anything in their homes or in their gardens or even use anything that comes natural. So, this is a totally consuming market. So, they've created that market, the US market. So, when they say they are putting tariffs on imports from China, it means when they say 100% tariffs on imports from China, it means when you buy something for $20,000 from China, US as well is going to charge you the same amount, $20,000 for tax for buying from China instead of buying from local companies. What is the impact of this? The impact of this, if the impact of this will be felt by the people who are consuming the goods, meaning the Americans who are consuming, who are buying these goods, are going to be the ones who are going to feel the impact of the tariffs. If the goods which are put on tariffs are not sold in America, it means the goods will only be more expensive for the citizens of the United States. So Donald Trump's plan is to tax the consumer in order to pay up the American debt, and the consumer that is going to tax is a consumer who wants to buy things from outside America's economy, instead of buying inside America's economy. So the understanding of tariffs is, I wanted us to first have an understanding of what tariffs are. Tariffs are those amount which the people who are going to feel the tariffs are actually the people who are buying, the consumers. But the people who are imposed, whom the tariffs are imposed as well, they feel the pinch as well because, for instance, we talk about China. China's economy is, China almost manufacture owns almost, they say, over a quarter of products are manufactured in China. Over the quarter of the world manufacturing industry is in China, meaning Chinese are owning a lot of manufacturing companies. So it means when the tariffs are put on these Chinese companies, then the Americans may choose to buy from another company which is offering the same thing in America, which will make the companies in China suffer and which will make the companies in China collapses. So the tariffs, the reason why the Chinese are actually fighting as well against Donald Trump is because this is affecting their economy very, very harshly, very, very bad. I'll explain on how, or maybe I should explain. Let me get into it and explain the Chinese situation. China is country which has had a policy, a one two-child policy uh, from 1971. They had a two-child policy from 1971, meaning they were restricting people or parents from giving birth to more children. Now, China's population is collapsing. The economy is not the infrastructure, and the economy is not the mines. The economy is the people. In China, at the moment as we speak, China have built so much infrastructure. In China, as we are speaking, they have more than 90 million housing units which are unoccupied, meaning they've got more infrastructure which is just standing, which is not making money as they were anticipating that it will make money. And the reason for that is because the population of China is collapsing due to the policy that they've implemented then. So now they run, uh, people are not getting married, people in all of those situations, people are not motivated to make more children. And because China has spent a lot of money on infrastructure development, now there's no more infrastructure to do in China. There's no more infrastructure development that they can carry out in order to activate the local economy and employ local people. Their economy is based on manufacturing. So they manufacture and send to outside countries. That's how they would keep their economy going. At the moment, they are in infrastructure. I mean, if you want your economy to grow, it's either you go for agriculture, infrastructure creation, or manufacturing, which is processing of the products that you are producing. So China has already explored the first one, which is infrastructure development. In China, there's massive infrastructure, extra 90 million houses are empty, meaning they can be able to house each and every South African. Each and every South African can go to China now and be given a house, and Chinese will still have 30 million houses which will still be unoccupied. That's how bad is the problem. The population of China is gross problem as well. They've got a population problem. Thank you very much, King Richard Mia, for joining Evening to Forum Konto and all the royal family. I am Richard Mie from Betal, Mzinoni Township in Pumalanga Province. Thank you very much for joining the live stream. Today we're talking deeper issues, talking about the impact of the tariffs on South Africa, on China, and we will also look at the Indian economy, on what will be the impact on the Indian economy. I was still explaining the Chinese economy. The Chinese economy, as we've said, they have already explored the infrastructure development path. They've created a lot of infrastructure which does not even have people to use because the population is declining. Um, they've created transportation, trains, infrastructure, bus infrastructure. There are no people to travel by those things because their population is in a free fall. Basically, they are trying to motivate people to make more babies now. They've allowed for three more babies. Chinese are no more interested in increasing their population. They are enjoying the two child policy that they've implemented before. So the Chinese people are not interested anymore in big families because they've discouraged them quite a lot. Many years they've been discouraging them to do so. So because the infrastructure cannot be able to develop. Now the issue is agriculture. You need the conditions, you need for agriculture to be cheaper, you need the right conditions. You need to have uh, the right weather and the right kind of soil. So Chinese have eliminated a lot of rainforest, a lot of indigenous land where people were planting. They have moved them and put infrastructure development. That was their priority at that time. That's why even now they've got a lot of problem with dust because they don't really even have trees. So agriculture is not their area in which they can actually explore to activate domestic consumption. The domestic consumption is very important because now what happened is because their economy is in a free fall, the Chinese have invested on manufacturing, but not manufacturing for local consumption because already people are unemployed. A lot of people are unemployed in China. High percentage of people are unemployed. The only industry which is working at the moment in China is it's either government services, when you are soldier, police, and all those things, or manufacturing. The only business sector which is properly working in China is manufacturing. So now the Chinese have already gotten their product to almost every part of the world. Uh, they are the leading, or they are number one, America's first. Thank you very much, Precious Malachi. We always keep learning here. Thank you very much, Precious Malachi, for buying me, giving me that 35 friend. Much appreciated. I will invest it in a proper way. Thank you very much. More people, if you've got gifts, please don't hesitate to give like she already did. So, we're still talking about the Chinese economy. So, because of the fact that now China is reliant on manufacturing, then the only place where they can actually employ people and activate local consumption is through manufacturing. So when Donald Trump put tariffs to collapse the manufacturing industry in China, is basically collapsing China. Donald Trump is well aware of this impact. Though this will have maximum impact even in his country as well, but it will have a very deeper impact on China. China, though they are trying to be arrogant and not wanting to bow down to what Trump wants, but the Chinese are going to suffer, their industries are going to suffer because of the Trump tariffs, because manufacturing is their only area. So in Africa, more what is going to happen now, Ibrahim Traore has already shown the way that they want to create industries for beneficiation. They don't want to send raw materials to Chinese or Europeans or Americans for them to process. So the future is local manufacturing and local processing of products that are produced in Africa. Uh, Chinese is a leading textile, it's leading in manufacturing of textile. But the cotton which they are using in China, they import it from Africa as a raw material. So a lot of African countries will now demand that those raw materials should be processed locally in order to activate local employment and local economy to increase local spending and to ensure that they export a finished product in which they can make more money. So Ibrahim Traore has already shown the way. So China's future in Africa, it's only on infrastructure development and maybe technology. So on infrastructure development, more of the African countries wants their companies to be part of to actually do the work. They only want the money to borrow money from China, but hire their own companies. You know the difference with the international mafia forums money, or the international that I call the International Mafias Forum, which is the IMF. The difference between the IMF and and China, when you borrow money from China, the IMF wants, they dictate that which companies are going to do the work. They bring their own companies, European companies, which are going to implement the work, and uh, they don't even transfer the money to your country to manage it. They manage everything from the IMF. They pay the contractors. They pay everybody. So it's their own companies which are just coming to implement that infrastructure development while they actually borrowed you the money. So China now is forced to change that because Africans are tired of that. That's what they have been getting from Europe and America since. So China has adapted this strategy and adapted the posture of we are not colonizing. We allow people, when they borrow money, we allow them to use their own currency. I mean, their own companies to build their infrastructure. That's what China's strategy is in building infrastructure in Africa. So, but that strategy makes Africans to beneficiate their own people. Does not necessarily help the Chinese people to increase employment on their people. It only helps them to create sort of like debt, or the slavery kind of debt, which is almost the same as the international mafia forums money. At the end of the day, you've got agreements that if you fail to pay it, then they are going to take over operation for so many years. They know most probably you're going to fail to pay it at some stage, and they are going to take over the infrastructure as agreed, or they are going to invade Africa at some stage when they are facing collapse. When they have to move out of the infrastructure which they are currently creating and managing, imagine when they have to vamoose, because Africans are now okay, they can operate their own infrastructure. So, what will China be at that moment? So, that does not help their economy to grow. So, China is facing a collapse. They are facing, and the collapse is imminent. The collapse was going to happen even when America did not put them on tariffs. It was going to happen because of that policy that they had, the one child policy, um, the one child policy of the Chinese. So it was going to happen. They are going to collapse. So let me talk again about. Let's take our focus to the impact of Trump's tariff in Africa. In South Africa, for instance, there are different types. There are actually South Africa or Africa is the only part of the world, not necessarily the only part of the world. South Africa and India or Asia, let me say, but specifically India, is the only part of the world where the population is still growing, though growing at a slower rate. Africa is the only part of the world in which the population is still growing. Africa is the only place in which the average age is 19. Europe is too old. The average age in Africa is 19, meaning Africa has got future. The population of Africa is said to be more than 1.4 billion at the moment, and it's said to be estimated to go to up to 2.4 billion in about 50 years, 50 to 100 years. So Africa is a massive market, and Africa has got two-layer economy. The difference with Africa and America, or Africa and China, China and America have managed to destroy the two-layer economy in their countries. It's only one layer economy. When I talk about two-layer economy, the economy, the village economy, the one that you can't tax, the one that the people plant the spinach at the back of their yard, where they get food from there and you cannot tax them. That economy that they call, because they measure people in dollars, the economy that they say it's below the dollar level. Because if you don't buy from, if you don't spend $1 per day, they classify you as poor because you are measured in dollars. So there's an economy in Africa, which is a second layer economy, which they have tried to destroy for many years, and they succeeded in many parts of um, South Africa or Africa. But that layer of economy is still very strong. The village economy, in which people don't necessarily depend on grocery market. They don't um, depend on processed food. They've got their own kettles which they milk and get milk, and they don't have to buy milk. They eat from home. That layer of economy is still available in South Africa. So South Africa or Africa is younger, and it has got an extra economy which cannot be destroyed by the collapse of the first economy. The first economy is the industrial economy, the one that comes with processed food which are in the supermarkets. That is the first economy. Should um, the people or the manufacturers decide to withdraw their food or to supply their food in the American market, then the American people are going to die of hunger. Should the food industry stop supplying food to supermarket in South Africa, South Africans will not die of hunger because of this second economy that we're talking about. More uh, will be produced from this economy if the first economy collapse. It will be taken over by the um, uh, underground or the second economy, the second layer of the economy, which is the black economy. This economy, it has been the one that has protected black people from suffering. Black people can eat herbs that grows just behind their yards, that grows naturally in their fields. They don't have to buy anything, which is very healthy in villages. Very powerful meals they have there. You can't tax them when they do that. When they do stock fails among themselves, you can't tax them when they do that, because they will be an old lady who will hold the money the whole month, and they will be playing those things. You can't tax them on that. So as long as you don't have access to tax them, then that is the layer of economy which the white man does not want to see exist, because they want to tax everybody. But this economy does exist. That is the economy which is going to save South Africa from the Trump tariffs. That is another issue which will save South Africa from Trump tariffs. The first issue is that South Africa is younger, has got younger population. I said I was going to relate this to India. The reason I want to relate it to India is because India is going to be one of the superpowers in the world. It will emerge as superpowers in the world Because of their same layer of economy, they also have the same second layer of economy. So another issue which will help Africa is because their agricultural industries are not explored. South Africa and Africa still has to explore uh, about 4,000 farmers. Let me say about 30,000. We can say 4,000 farmers control the agricultural sector in South Africa. About 30,000 rich people, rich white people control the total economy of South Africa. So basically, if we can allow more people into agriculture, it means this economy has not yet been explored in terms of agriculture. Agriculture is the real economy because uh, people will never stop eating, irrespective of whether there's a war, irrespective of everything happening. The agriculture is a real economy which our great ancestors based their life on. They based their life on agriculture, naturally growing food, planting food, eating from the soil, not processed food from the shop. So that is the layer of the economy which will rise, which will take over, which is not yet exploited. We talked about how what is the reason China will collapse. They cannot exploit the agricultural industry. They've already exhausted the infrastructure industry. So Africa has not yet explored its agricultural industry, has not yet explored its infrastructure development. Still, there's, we can say, 1% of job has been done in infrastructure development in Africa. There's still 99% of growth in that area. Africa has not explored its mineral exploitation. There's still massive growth if everybody is open up uh, to explore the mining as part of the future. So when President Zuma expropriate the land without compensation, because that's what he's going to do, when the Commander General, His Excellency President Jacob Zuma, expropriate the land without compensation, it will open up for the agricultural sector, and the agricultural sector which belongs to black people. When before the arrival of white people, black people were eating vegetables, naturally growing vegetables from their local area. People don't even know what they were eating before white people came. Black people were generally vegetarians before the arrival of white people. If we make our proper research, black people were generally vegetarians. They would eat meat only for the purpose of sacrificing for their ancestors. The industrialization of food has come with the exploitation of sicknesses into Africa. They have exported the sugar diabetes industry. They are exporting the cancer industry. I'm calling them industries because those are not sicknesses, those are industries which are run by business people, making sure that people are sick so that they can trap them on that. And then once you've got all of these sicknesses, and this all of this food creates complications with men, complications with women. People are not even, most people are not even able to give birth, or it's even difficult for men to be potent because of the type of the food that has been exported by the industrialization of food into Africa. It has changed a lot of things. The level of intelligence has been lowered because of the consumption of the poisonous food that people are actually consuming. Uh, well, I'm not talking about, not necessarily about poisonous food today. I'm talking about the reason why South Africa or Africa is going to rise. When all of these are taken into consideration, when we take into account that the technology in Africa is not exploited, the agricultural sector, the condition in South Africa allows for agriculture to grow, food production. Africa is at the moment even exporting a lot of agricultural food products to other countries because of the conditions that are prevailing in Africa, the weather conditions and the soil, which is rich in Africa. Uh, what will be the impact of the tariffs on Russia? Let me talk a little bit as well about the tariffs in Russia. Russia is also going to collapse as a superpower. China will collapse as a superpower. America is going to collapse as a superpower. America will collapse because of the de-dollarization project. China is going to collapse because of the one child policy. Russia is going to collapse because of their investment into war. They have one important, very important thing that maybe people are not paying attention to. Whenever there's a war, you have to invest resources. One of the most important resources that are available in a country for a country to continue working, it's young men and young women at some stage. And those are the people which are required for a war. Why young men are one of the most important resources in a country? It's because those are the ones that we still expect them to marry women and create more babies in order to grow the population. Russia have invested their young men into wars for the past 2 years or so, 3 years or so. Russia has been investing their most important resource, which is their young men, into wars. More than 1 million young men have been killed in wars fighting. They have also invested. If the nuclear weapons that are available on the planet, they say it can burn the planet, destroy the planet to non-existence 700 times. The armament that are available, nuclear bombs and the armaments which are available on the planet combined can burn planet Earth 700 times if everybody uses their weapon. They can burn planet Earth, none will exist 700 times. 99% of this army that they have gathered will not be used for any war because nobody is going to use nuclear weapons in this planet again. The nuclear weapons that they are creating, which are more expensive, and they are investing into these armies, they are not going to use those nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapon is not a game. Nuclear weapon can ban everything and everybody in the planet. So even if you are a dictator, you want to be dictating to people. You don't want to be dictating to. You don't want to also eliminate yourself and everybody that you want to dictate to on the planet. So nuclear weapons that these countries have invested their money in are not going to be used. Even 1% of those of the amount invested in that is not going to be used effectively, meaning it's a waste of economic resources. They were supposed to invest into positive things, into creating positive things, but it's invested into creating bombs to scare other people. So Russia at the moment they're in a crisis. They're in a population crisis at the moment. When you can, they have banned those things that the US was selling to us, which Donald Trump has also banned. If I can mention it here, this video will be shadow banned. Those things that they have been paying for, the Americans have been paying for, which changes other genders to make to create other genders or pay other people in Africa to uh, uh, basically encourage people to be those genders that we know they don't necessarily exist. If you do that in Russia, you are labeled as an extremist and you will be arrested. You can be jailed for 15 years for doing such a thing. There's a possibility of you being jailed for. If you are found to be discouraging young women from making babies, even if you are a woman, you will be arrested and pay a fine. If you continue to behave like that, you may be arrested and be given a jail term. When a woman wants to be pregnant or when they get pregnant, the state takes care of their babies because they want to increase the population. They are in a population crisis. Why are they desperate want to increase the population? Is because um, the economy is not the mines. Because even when they mine the gold, they need somebody to buy it. The economy is the people. who are all possibilities. People are all possibilities. So when you have people, you have the economy, you have the people to consume. India and South Africa are those countries uh, which have the second layer, and the second layer of economy is still stronger and existing. The population of India is blowing up as well. It will blow up as well in the next few years, as well as in Africa, the population will still blow up. Besides the population, the infrastructure development is going to blow up, the technology industry. Africa is going to be very, very rich in the near future, because the right kind of leadership is going to take over, and Africa will no longer be that place where the Europeans are just coming to take the slaves and to take the money out from the slaves. It will no longer be a place where the local people are just watching the trucks blocking the roads without knowing where the trucks are going and what they are taking. Big trucks, abnormal trucks blocks the roads everywhere, especially in uh, mining towns, road leading to mining towns. When you see a development, a road being taken care of, pay attention. It's a road that leads to a particular mine. It's not for your convenience. It's for the truck to be able to run as fast as possible, to make as much as possible without being noticed by the local uh, person, while enriching themselves and coming back to tax the same people from which they are stealing their resources, from which they are blocking for growth. They come and tax them again, take from the same black person. So Russia is going to collapse, China is going to collapse, America is going to collapse, Africa is going to rise, India is going to rise. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for attending the class. Please give me your opinion. Click the like button and subscribe if you feel this makes sense. Give me your opinion. Tell us what you think about the subject in general. Do you think this is the proper royal opinion, or do you have a different opinion that you would like to ventilate with us? Please feel free to send a message. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens. Enjoy your night.